out the way.
You're listening to Mature Allure. Here, we chat about self-care, relationships, careers, and all the things living a mature life includes. I'm your host, Sherry O. Welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. I'm happy you could do this for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
First, just introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, of course. My name is Marie. And do you want my full name?
Your full name, a little bit about you. That
Yeah,
sort
no,
of thing.
sure. Yeah, so my name is Marie Mantz. I'm originally from Staten Island, so full New Yorker, although a lot of people don't consider Staten Island part of the boroughs, but it still is. But I live in Manhattan now. I come from a ballet background, an acting background, and then through dance, I eventually kind of got obsessed with Pilates and fitness in general, just because I was really lucky in having some amazing teachers that really knew how to teach and break it down and teach biomechanics and understand the human body and that whole. So I really looked out because I actually, funny enough, I didn't start proper ballet training until I was like 14, 15. So which is very late considering in the dance world. But as I said, I was incredibly lucky to train with some of the best like ballet teachers that New York has. And one of my favorite teachers, she's originally from Paris and she like trained in the French method. So then when I met her, thankfully it was like, it just skyrocketed from there. And then just from her training and like really breaking it down and like having one-on-one sessions with her, that's when I was like, oh, Pilates is really cool. Like I remember somebody say it's strengthening your core, and always felt like my core was never strong enough, and then kind of just got obsessed with it. So started doing Pilates at 15. So I guess I've been doing it for 15 years now, which is kind of insane to say. Yeah.
Wow.
But then I was like, you know what, let me, after college and trying to like, find your way. I have a degree in art history, but not using that. But great when you're traveling because you get to see all the art. But yeah, so then I was like, you know what? I love Pilates so much. I get frustrated when I'm taking a class and I see the instructor not instructing properly and whatnot. So then I was like, you know what? Let's get certified. Finally made it happen, fell in love with it even more, and then started teaching it. And yeah, here we are
Here you
today.
are. So, I've been thinking about Pilates for a while. So this is really good that we're doing this. I know
Yeah.
Angelica does it, and she seems to do it really well. Um, what is Pilates? I mean, I've seen it, but if you can describe what Pilates actually is, would be great.
Yeah, no, of course. I do like, I feel like just being in the fitness industry, you kind of see the pros and the cons, like the demographic of what works for who and what doesn't and whatnot. And it's such a, I feel like for a lot of people that don't know what it is, it feels very freaky because it's either you'll see it on a machine, you'll see it on like even doing the mat or whatnot. But Pilates is both conditioning and mobility work, and you're strengthening and lengthening at the same time. So it sounds very like there's a lot of things simultaneously happening. So hopefully that makes sense. You're strengthening and lengthening with
The
conditioning.
muscles. You're strengthening and lengthening muscles. Is that what you're
Yes. So you're really working on, say, like the little muscles that support the bigger muscles. I'd like to say that it's probably one of the first kind of physical therapy kind of workouts, so to say. I don't want to say that it's you're going slow and whatnot, because you can walk out of it just drenched in sweat. But it's great conditioning work. It's great strengthening. As I said, you're working on the little muscles to help support the bigger muscles. When you have a great instructor, you kind of learn what your strengths and weaknesses are and then how to balance it out.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully that answers the
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. And it leads right into the benefits. Like, what are some of the known benefits of Pilates?
So like I said, it's kind of, what I think is kind of one of the first like physical therapy kind of workouts, so to say. So the benefits definitely, it's like if you have had a herniated disc, You can do, strengthening exercises for that. And just, as I said, conditioning. It's also like just keeping your body back to feeling normal and aligned. If you've broken a hip, it's great to take Pilates. It's also like anything broken or sprained, and there's you kind of lose that mind body connection, because it's like with the second you injure something, you get very hyper aware and cautious because you don't want to do anything again. And Pilates is that great way to kind of get that mind body connection back, which is amazing. Pretty much any injury, it is one of the best workouts to get into to kind of get back into your routine.
Well, I'm glad that you said that about the mind body thing because I don't know how I hurt my knee, but it's pretty bad. So since then, I haven't been really doing anything. And like you said, just kind of losing it. Like, okay, so what do I do next? And I have wanted to do Pilates. So that's why one of the questions that I asked you was, is it good for somebody who has a knee or knee injury or even back? I don't have back issues, but I definitely have a knee issue.
Oh, I mean, I think it's the best thing for everything. Like literally, I think like that is the answer. I'm like, I'm depressed. If my mental state is not in a good way, Pilates is going to fix it. If like something is broken, Pilates is that's literally how I go. No, but it's amazing for any knee problems or knee aches. Cause when you're doing Pilates, so like if you're on a machine, say for example, and I know one of the starting workouts is usually you lie down on your back and you have these like shoulder pads that like or I don't want to say force, but it basically keeps your shoulders away from your ears. So you have that long neck. And then there's this foot bar that you have your heels on, and then you're just creating this 90-degree angle with your legs to your hip. And so automatically in that, there's no pressure on your knees. There's no pressure on your legs because you're not standing. You're not, gravity's not pulling you down. You're not holding yourself up. So because everything is, since it is condition work, instead of say like, any just fitness in general, if you're doing any conditioning work, you use a lot of resistance training. So it's either TheraBands, any like rubber bands, if you've done PT or what, I'm sure you've seen them, even in yoga. I think maybe. No, I don't think in yoga they use it, but anyway, the bands. But then with Pilates, there's like the machines are spring loaded. So for that, instead of like the rubber, the TheraBands, you have the springs for the resistance training. So with that, you're lying on your back, you press through your heels, you're immediately engaging your glutes, taking any pressure out of your knees, and kind of just like feeling, again, one of the bigger muscles, which are your glutes, helping to support you. So you're getting out of like, you're taking the weight out of your knees, you're taking the weight out of your hips. So it's like that. Yeah. So anything going on with your legs, it's a great way to like kind of take the weight and take the pressure off and just like start with those, as I said, like the little muscles to help support the bigger muscles.
It's so crazy because listening to you, I am going to check on Pilates tomorrow. I've been saying that I'm going to go, but the weather has gotten a little bit warmer. So like I'm off tomorrow, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, I like to say to people, and I think it's just, it's hard for, I mean, everybody's experience is different with fitness, and I think it goes down to like body image. It goes down to that whole thing, being a woman and like your body image and all that. And I've gotten to that point finally where it's like, you're going to work out, excuse my words, but who the fuck cares what anybody else thinks? You can have somebody next to you that is in the most insane shape or looks like is in the most insane shape, but they have no like coordination going on. But then you think in your mind, like, oh my God, like what are they doing to get this body? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? It's like, you're in your own zone. And I also like to think Pilates is such a meditative, get back into your body kind of way, because all you have to think about is what the exercise is. And if you're doing it, that feels good to you and you're doing it right. So you get very like horse blinders, like this is what we're focusing on. I'm in just my own zone, getting centered. Okay. Who the fuck cares about everybody else? And
Yeah.
I think it's just like even if there's like you've had an injury, you haven't worked out in a while, and you just like you don't feel your best, who the fuck cares what everybody else is thinking? It's like this is your time. Who the fuck cares? You know what I mean? I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely get it.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of answers who should do Pilates. I mean, anybody, right? Or does it
Oh,
matter?
it's literally for anybody, anybody, everybody, literally everybody, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's
Doesn't
see.
matter if you're a beginner, doesn't matter if you're advanced, doesn't matter if you're in shape, out of shape. It's literally for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So when considering, let me see, how often? I guess, like, especially if you don't know anything about it, like when I go in and talk to them tomorrow and they start selling me packages, like as somebody is just starting out, like how often should I go in? What should I expect? You know,
Um, yeah, no, so I feel the better studios, they'll usually sell you on the like it's usually like a 3 pack of one-on-one sessions. And that's like a I can't remember how they were. Not even so much a beginner, but it's just like new client, beginner package, whatnot. And I always think I personally, because I've been in situations where I've had one-on-one training, I think that is one of those things that everybody should have at least once in their life because it just gets you really aware of what's going on physically. And then you have your own awareness of like, okay, I can work on this. And then, it gets that mind body connection going. So like the good places, as I said, they'll sell you on the 3 pack new client deal. And especially being someone who hasn't done Pilates before, I think that is like the best way to start. And they'll probably try to sell you on if you can do at least like 2 to 3 times a week. Um, that's usually what they'll try to sell on. I know with fitness, they can get a little pricey but again, at the same time, I'm like, do what works for you. You can do like 1 to 2 a week. I mean, is it going to like click as fast? Probably not. But at the same time, you're still doing it. You're still getting it like going on your body. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
what could a first time or a beginner expect from like a first session? Like give an overall
Yeah.
example.
So there'll definitely be some biomechanical things. Don't freak out when you hear, of course, hearing that. But it could just be, I know from teaching beginner people, it would be like if you're on your hands and knees. So you're creating that like tabletop position. So like if I'm not going to go on the floor, but like if my hands are on the ground, it's like my wrists are completely underneath my shoulders. My legs are bent in a 90-degree angle. My knee is like directly underneath my hip. And then literally one of the position will be like protraction, retraction. So you're just squeezing your shoulder blades together and then widening them. So that's like one first position. So literally just feeling your shoulders and just feeling how you can immediately gauge your shoulders and your back just from doing that position. It can also feel really good if you have a really tight neck or just like you haven't moved your shoulders. It feels really good.
I was going to say it seems like a great stress release.
Oh my God, it's the best. Literally. It's a good, again, it's like you're also a big chunk too is Pilates teaches you how to breathe. And if you are someone who loves to stress out, it gets you to breathe again, basically. Breathing with your movement, again, getting the mind, body, and breath going together. Um, but yeah, so like one of those ideas is just biomechanical, literally the biomechanics of your breathing. So they'll say like put your hands on your rib cage and just feel how when you inhale expands, as you exhale, it contracts. So you're literally just feeling that. Or then um if you're lying on your back, knees bent, feet on the mat, literally just press your hips up. So you're just like biomechanics of your hips. So it's like those just to like feel how your joints are moving. So I would guess those are like the beginner, but even in advanced stuff, you'll do that if you've been sitting at a desk all day or, just to like open up the body, Yeah.
That was going to be my next question because I'm asking for beginners because I'm curious. But I mean, those
Yeah.
people that have been in Pilates, like, would some of their exercises be similar?
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I mean, you can never go wrong with the basics, as I like to say. Even for how long I've been doing it, a beginner class is still difficult for me because you find new ways to work. And even then I catch myself like my shoulders are coming up because I'm like, oh God, just so it's just yeah. So even the simple exercises are still it's still hard. So even I feel everyone says this as someone who's been doing it for so long, you will forever be a beginner in Pilates. That is one of those Pilates is one of those exercises that you'll forever be a beginner. And and I hope that doesn't sound discouraging. Like I don't want it to sound
No, that
discouraging,
actually
but it
sounds
just
great.
like I can like even myself, as I said, I can go into a class and I'm like, what the hell just happened? After like a really good workout and yeah,
That actually sounds really good. I like that quote
yeah,
actually. Because, then that way somebody who might be thinking about it might feel a little intimidated, but at the same time, when you put it that way, everyone's kind of a beginner.
yeah,
Like, you don't know where people are in their Pilates journey. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
so I know that you mentioned it's good to probably have an instructor for your first time, for your first sessions. Can it be done at home?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah. I mean, even with everything being virtual, um, I do always say if you're like a beginner, I say it is very helpful to have an instructor with you. Um, just because they can be hands-on if need be. Of course, like any instructor's like, are you okay with this? If I put, my hand on a leg, are you okay with this? Like they'll always check in with that. I think it's always good just to have a little bit of that tactile in the beginning. Um, but at the same time, like if you have worked out before, and I'm sure you have because you've had a life, obviously. Like, I mean, I'm sure you already have some of that stuff in your body without even realizing it. That even you can go on YouTube and look up videos, and you should be fine. And even honestly, some of the stuff on YouTube has been amazing for beginner stuff. Even myself, I've like, all right, let's just kind of slowly get back into it, and have found some great people. So yeah, if it's like, especially if it's like someone who's been out of fitness in a minute and just want to get that beginner, definitely amazing. For like beginner, like haven't sweat in a, in a minute, then I would say probably start with someone just to give the tactile. But yeah.
Like that haven't sweat in a minute. So are you teaching any now, or because I know Angelica mentioned you started a new job, but I was just wondering if you were teaching or right now, or can people still contact you for a session?
So I am actually not teaching anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But no, I mean definitely I do miss teaching Angelica sometimes. I will say there's certain people that I miss teaching, but yeah, not at the moment though.
Well, you can be our resident Pilates expert because the way we're doing this, like right now, we have the blog, but we plan on later this spring starting with the podcast. So, like a lot of the people that we're interviewing now, we want to bring back to talk about,
Oh
some of
yeah,
the things
definitely.
we're
Even if you have
already
like a
talking about.
video section and I have you guys and I'll teach you guys on video, I could totally do that
Yeah,
too.
that would be great. And I'm supposed to be coming at the end of March. So maybe we can set that
Oh,
up.
nice.
So I'll talk to Angelica about it because I'm here in Atlanta. But let me see if there's because you've really answered a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. Okay. Now, for anyone that's looking into maybe moving into Pilates as a second or new career, what would you suggest? How do they get started?
Yeah, definitely do your research on studios because I've seen a lot of places that can, I mean, again, this is like one of those things that people think like, oh, it's a quick, bang for your buck kind of situation. And it makes me really angry about that because it's just like, you can't just take this test and immediately be a fitness instructor. And yeah, so I would say definitely do your research. It's not going to be cheap, that is for sure. I know it can range between, I want to say it can range between 3 to 8, 9 grand to get your training, but honestly, I think it's one of the best investments you can do. Um, just because it gives you the anatomy, it gives you like the amount of exercises is insane. It's absolutely insane. And like I even catch myself like looking back at my manual, because like I feel like every instructor is like looking back at the manual, making sure like perfecting their craft. There's also observation hours, there's teaching hours, like it comes out to a good like 550 hours of a certification. So yeah, as I said, really do your research. Even with the places that you're curious about, take the classes there. See if you like how their instructors are. Yeah, even, I mean, excuse me, even like talking to friends who are into Pilates, see what they say. But yeah, that's kind of my suggestion of getting into it. Definitely do the research, take classes, see what you like, see what you don't like. Definitely probably do a pros and cons list. And even the places that do seem very expensive, some of the studios do a work study program. So you work at the studio just to pay a good chunk of it off, and then pay the rest. That's actually what I did with my studio. I did a bit of their work study, and yeah. And then also another chunk too. Not to make it more overwhelming, but there are different, I don't know, I want to say there's like two different styles, so to say. So there's classic Pilates, which is like from the king of Pilates, Joseph Pilates. That's actually his last name, Joseph Pilates. He's the founding father of Pilates. He created a whole classical system. And then you have contemporary, which a good chunk of studios today you'll see do the contemporary, but then a good chunk will do a mixture of contemporary classic. So keep that in mind. And this is getting into it deeply now. The classical ones, they have two different types of Pilates machines they use. And then the more contemporary has a different, like it's called like bounce body, and that's just like the spring load is a little different. So yeah, so kind of figure out if you want to do more of the classical, more of the contemporary, or kind of a mixture of both. But as I said before, a good chunk of it is what your gut tells you. Take classes, see what speaks to you, and yeah.
Perfect. That sounds great. Well, that's it.
In the core, me first, you sure. On my time, been off yours, boss.